This is a short but important section on algebraic expressions with more than one variable, and this will improve your problem translation skills. In example 1, Charlie buys L fishing lures. He pays full price P for the first lure. Every lure after the first one is sold for $3 less than the regular price. Write an expression for the amount he paid for his lures. The first thing you need to realize is that if Charlie has L lures, 1 less than L lures is L minus 1 lures. 2 lures less than L is L minus 2, and so on. Charlie buys 1 lure at full price and L minus 1 lures at the discount price. Secondly, remember that the price paid is the cost per item times the number of items. Understand that for all lures after the first one, P minus 3 is the cost per lure and L minus 1 is the number of lures. The total cost, which is the total amount Charlie paid, is the cost of the first lure plus the cost of the other lures. The total cost then is the cost of the first lure times the number of lures plus the cost of the other lures times the number of the other lures he bought. The total amount paid is, for the first lure was just P times 1 or P. Then for the remaining lures he paid P minus 3 for L minus 1 lures, and we have P times 1 plus in parentheses P minus 3 times another set of parentheses L minus 1. In example 2, Charlie is Y yards from shore. He swims the first 100 yards toward shore at a rate of 20 yards per minute. After being bumped by an inquisitive lemon shark, he swims the remaining distance at a rate of 50 yards per minute. Write an algebraic expression to describe the time it takes him to swim to shore. The distance to shore can be divided into 2 parts, 100 and y minus 100. Remember, the 100 is the first part of his swim, and then the total amount minus 100 is the second part of his swim. So the time to shore is the time before being bumped by the shark, plus the time he swam after being bumped by the shark. Also remember that time equals distance over rate. The time he spent swimming before the shark was the distance over rate before he got bumped, and then the time he spent swimming after he was bumped was the distance over rate for those values. Therefore, the total time he spent swimming to shore was 100 yards over 20 yards per minute plus y minus 100 over 50 yards per minute. Therefore, the time is 5 plus y minus 100 over 50. Here are some practice problems for you to try. Remember to pause the DVD after each problem. When you have finished, come back for the answer. Practice problem 1. Rhonda buys S skirts at a Macy's clearance sale. She buys the first skirt for $D and the remaining skirts for $5 off the regular price. Write an expression describing the amount of money she spent on skirts. The amount she spent was D for the first skirt plus S minus 1 times D minus 5. Recall that she bought S skirts, and so after buying the first skirt, she had S minus 1 skirts left, and for those S minus 1 skirts, she paid the full price minus $5, which is D minus 5. Here's practice problem 2. Charlie is a passenger in his friend Red's Volkswagen. Red turns a corner too fast and the car sails over a guardrail and lands upside down in a rock pit at a distance of U feet underwater. The car fills with water. To make matters worse, the handle to roll the window down is broken, and Charlie has to search the dark, watery car for a vise grip to roll the window down. It takes V seconds to find the vise grip and W seconds to roll the window down. When he leaves the car, he swims at a rate of R feet per second for the first 10 feet. After the first 10 feet, he increases his rate by 2 feet per second. Write an expression to describe the total time it took Charlie to swim to the surface. The answer is V plus W plus 10 over r plus u minus 10 over r plus 2. Obviously, v is the time Charlie spent finding the vise grip, and w is the time he spent rolling the window down. Note the time he spent swimming. For the first 10 feet, he swam at a rate of r. Hence, the time for that first portion of the swim is distance over rate, which is 10 over r. For the second portion of his swim, he had u minus 10 feet left to swim, and he swam at a faster rate of r plus 2. The distance over rate is time, and so the time for that portion of the swim is u minus 10 over r plus 2. Practice problem 3. Charlie's mom buys D Bob Dylan records. She pays full price P for the first 2 and half price for every record after that. Find an expression for the amount of money she spent on Bob Dylan records. The answer is 2p plus 1/2 p times D minus 2. Remember that P is price and D is the number of discs or CDs that she bought. She paid full price for the first 2, that's 2p, and then she paid half price for the remaining number of discs that she bought. And since she bought D discs altogether and 2 of them were full price, the number at half price was D minus 2. Practice problem 4. A music store holds a going out of business sale. A customer can buy the first 5 CDs at half price. All additional CDs after the first 5 can be purchased at 1/4 of the regular price. Write an expression for the amount spent by a customer buying C CDs. And here's the answer. She bought the first 5 for half price, so the total amount spent on the first 5 was that price times the number, it's 1/2 p times 5. Then she bought the remaining disc, which is C minus 5, for 1/4 price. That's 1/2 p times 5 plus 1/4 p times parentheses C minus 5. Combining a little bit is 5/2 p plus 1/4 p times parentheses C minus 5. Practice problem 5. A bicyclist makes a round trip that takes a total of h hours. On the first half of the trip, he travels at a rate of m miles per hour for x hours. On the return trip, he travels 2 miles per hour slower. Write an expression to describe the distance traveled on the return trip. His distance is rate times time. Since he travels 2 miles per hour slower than the original rate, which was m, his rate is m minus 2. Remember that he traveled a total on the entire round trip of h hours, and if he traveled x hours for the first part of the trip, the time spent on the return is h minus x.